The impossible challenge. The vast crystalline halls of the Nexus Intergalactic Research Academy shimmered with an otherworldly luminescence. Holographic displays danced between architectural structures that defied human understanding, their geometric patterns shifting like living entities. Here, at the heart of galactic scientific exploration, species from 1,000 worlds converged to push the boundaries of knowledge. Dar. Kai Rodriguez stood out, not just because he was human, but because of the quiet confidence that seemed to radiate from him. His dark hair was tied back, revealing eyes that seemed to see beyond the immediate, a trait that had both intrigued and unsettled his alien colleagues. Professor Zrintok, a massive four-armed being from the methane-rich world of Kraxus, approached the central platform. His exoskeletal form glistened under the artificial light, neural implants pulsing with complex data streams. The annual Quantum Dynamics Challenge was about to begin, a test that had broken the spirit of countless brilliant researchers across the galaxy. Esteemed colleagues, Zrintok's voice resonated through universal translation devices. This year's challenge pushes the limits of computational and predictive capabilities. We present a problem that requires simultaneous understanding of quantum mechanics, gravitational dynamics, and multidimensional probability matrices. A massive holographic projection materialized, a chaotic network of intersecting energy patterns, gravitational waves, and quantum fluctuations. It represented a complex system that had defied comprehension for generations. The challenge: predict the exact evolutionary path of an emerging quantum network with unprecedented complexity. The assembled researchers represented the most advanced minds in the known universe. Crystalline beings from Lumina, with their light-based neural networks. Gaseous entities from the hydrogen clouds of Nebula Prime. Silicon-based intelligences from the computational worlds of the Zeroth Collective. And then there was Kai, the sole human representative. Whispers rippled through the assembly. Humans were considered primitives by most galactic standards, their biological limitations seemingly incompatible with the advanced computational requirements of such a challenge. Most saw Kai's presence as a diplomatic courtesy, a token representation of an emerging species. Professor Zrintok's secondary neural cluster pulsed with a mixture of curiosity and condescension. You will have 6 standard galactic cycles to analyze the quantum network. Your predictive models must account for every potential quantum state, every possible interaction, every minute probability. The other researchers immediately interfaced with the Academy's quantum computing grid. Holographic interfaces erupted around them, complex mathematical equations dancing in three-dimensional space, neural implants glowing with intense computational activity. It was a symphony of technological prowess, each researcher pushing the boundaries of their species' computational capabilities. Kai Rodriguez remained still. He pulled out an old-fashioned tablet, a relic that drew bemused looks from his colleagues. While others were lost in complex quantum calculations, Kai began sketching. His hand moved with an almost rhythmic precision, capturing the essence of the quantum network's movements. Vrexenael, a senior researcher from the Crystalline Collective, leaned toward Kai. Your primitive tools cannot possibly comprehend the quantum fluctuations, he said, his crystalline form refracting light with each dismissive movement. This requires quantum entanglement analysis beyond biological computation. Kai simply smiled. What the other researchers saw as chaos, Kai perceived as pattern. His background in complex systems theory, combined with a lifetime of studying unpredictable environments, gave him a unique perspective. Where others saw randomness, he saw underlying rhythms, like understanding the complex flow of a turbulent river or predicting the intricate dance of a storm. As hours passed, the other researchers became increasingly frustrated. Their quantum models kept collapsing, unable to maintain stability across the network's dynamic interactions. Holographic displays flickered and reset, computational matrices crumbling under the challenge's complexity. Kai continued to sketch. His tablet was filled with intricate drawings, not mathematical equations, but visual representations of flow, interconnection, and potential. He was mapping the quantum network's behavior like an artist might capture the essence of a landscape, understanding its soul rather than just its surface. Professor Zrintok watched with growing intrigue. Something about the human's approach was fundamentally different. While others fought against the system's complexity, Kai seemed to be working in harmony with it. As the final cycles approached, the other researchers looked defeated. Their most advanced computational systems had failed, crushed by the challenge's inherent complexity. Kai Rodriguez put down his stylus. "I'm ready," he said simply. The hall fell silent. The aftermath of Kai Rodriguez's unexpected submission hung in the air like a suspended quantum state. Professor Zrintok's neural implants flickered with a complex array of emotions, curiosity, skepticism, and a hint of anticipation that defied his species' typically reserved demeanor. "Explain," he commanded, his forearms crossing in a gesture that seemed to demand both submission and respect. Kai's journey to this moment had been anything but conventional. Growing up in the adaptive environments of Earth's most challenging ecosystems had shaped his approach to problem-solving. The Amazon rainforest, with its intricate web of life, the unpredictable volcanic regions of Hawaii, the complex maritime ecosystems of the Antarctic, these were his first teachers. "The quantum network isn't a problem to be solved," Kai began, his voice calm and measured. "It's a living system with its own internal logic." He projected his sketches onto the massive holographic display. What appeared to be random lines and abstract shapes to the alien researchers revealed themselves as an intricate mapping of potential interactions. Each line represented not a mathematical equation, but a potential path of energy, of probability. Vrexenael, the crystalline researcher, approached skeptically. His species prided itself on pure computational precision, viewing intuition as a primitive form of understanding. "These are not calculations," he protested, his crystalline form refracting light in agitated patterns. Kai smiled. "Sometimes understanding is more than calculation. It's about perceiving the underlying rhythm." He explained how his approach drew from multiple disciplines. Ecological modeling, where complex systems interact in seemingly chaotic but fundamentally predictable ways. Fluid dynamics, where turbulence follows intricate but discoverable patterns. Biological network theory, where seemingly random connections reveal deeper organizational principles. The other researchers listened, a mixture of confusion and reluctant intrigue filling the massive chamber. Professor Zrintok's secondary neural cluster began to parse Kai's presentation. What initially seemed like artistic abstraction was revealing itself as a profoundly different approach to computational analysis. Where traditional methods sought to control and predict, Kai's methodology sought to understand and flow. "Your method," Zrintok said slowly, "it does not conform to standard computational models." "Exactly," Kai responded. "Most computational approaches try to break a system into its smallest components. But some systems are greater than the sum of their parts. They have an emergent quality that can't be understood through pure reductionism." He walked to the holographic display, his hand moving through the quantum network's projection. Where other researchers saw chaos, Kai saw a dance, each potential state not as a fixed point, but as a fluid possibility. The quantum network they were analyzing was particularly challenging. It represented a multidimensional information system that evolved dynamically, with potential states that existed simultaneously and interdependently. Traditional computational approaches had failed because they tried to freeze these states, to capture them like insects in amber. Kai's approach was different. He treated the network like a living ecosystem, tracking its potential movements, understanding its inherent tendencies rather than trying to force a precise prediction. "Watch," he said. His projection began to shift. Instead of rigid mathematical models, it showed a flowing representation of the quantum network. Potential paths emerged and dissolved, showing not just where the network might go, but the underlying principles guiding its movement. The other researchers leaned forward. Vrexenael's crystalline form trembled with a mix of frustration and dawning comprehension. Professor Zrintok's neural implants were working overtime, processing this unconventional approach. Humans had always been considered an emerging species, technologically primitive, biologically limited. But this was something different. Your methodology, Zrintok said, it challenges everything we understand about computational analysis. Kai nodded. Sometimes the most powerful tool is not the most advanced technology, but the ability to see patterns others miss. As the presentation concluded, a profound silence filled the chamber. The quantum network's projection continued to dance, a living, breathing representation of possibility that seemed to validate Kai's approach. The challenge was far from over. The real test would be whether his unconventional method could actually solve the seemingly impossible problem. Time seemed to fold in on itself within the Nexus Intergalactic Research Academy. The massive chamber where Kai Rodriguez had presented his unconventional approach now hummed with an electric anticipation. Professor Zrintok had granted Kai a rare opportunity, a direct challenge to prove his methodology's validity. The quantum network projection continued its mesmerizing dance of potentiality, a complex tapestry of energy and probability that had defeated the galaxy's most advanced computational systems. Around Kai, holographic interfaces flickered with the failed attempts of countless alien researchers, each a testament to the challenge's seeming impossibility. Dr. Lena Vorak, a senior researcher from the Computational Collective, approached Kai with a mixture of skepticism and grudging respect. Her species was renowned for their logical precision, their entire civilization built on computational perfection. "You understand," she said, her vocalization device translating her complex biochemical communication, "that your approach will be scrutinized at every level. One miscalculation, one moment of intuitive error, and everything you've claimed will be discredited." Kai nodded. He knew the stakes were more than personal. This was a moment that could reshape how intelligent species approached complex systems analysis. His mind drifted to the experiences that had prepared him for this moment. Nights spent tracking migration patterns in the Amazon, where seemingly random animal movements revealed intricate ecological networks. Months studying coral reef ecosystems, understanding how millions of individual organisms created a complex, adaptive system far beyond individual capabilities. The quantum network before him was similar, a living, breathing entity with its own internal logic. Professor Zrintok activated the final stage of the challenge. The holographic display intensified, quantum probabilities multiplying exponentially. Where previous attempts had collapsed under the weight of infinite possibilities, Kai remained calm. He began to draw. Not with mathematical precision, but with a fluid understanding of movement and potential. His stylus traced paths that seemed to emerge from the network itself, as if he was reading its inherent language rather than imposing an external framework. The other researchers watched in disbelief. Their computational systems had generated millions of potential scenarios, each more complex than the last. Kai's approach looked almost simplistic in comparison, a few lines, some subtle annotations, a seemingly intuitive flow. "Impossible," muttered Vrexenael, his crystalline form vibrating with frustration. But something was happening. The quantum network's projection began to stabilize. Where previous models had collapsed into chaotic uncertainty, Kai's representation started to reveal underlying patterns. It was as if he was not predicting the network's behavior, but understanding its fundamental nature. Dr. Lena Vorak's computational interfaces began to correlate. At first, it was just a subtle alignment, a few probability streams matching Kai's intuitive mapping. Then more. Then exponentially more. Professor Zrintok's neural implants were working at unprecedented levels, cross-referencing Kai's approach against millennia of computational research. What should have been random was revealing itself as a profound understanding of systemic complexity. "How?" Vrexenael demanded, moving closer to the projection. How can mere visual representation capture what our most advanced systems could not? Kai looked up, a slight smile crossing his face. Because systems are more than their individual components. They're living networks with their own internal logic. You were trying to control the system. I'm learning to understand it. The breakthrough was happening in real time. Kai's representation wasn't just predicting the quantum network's potential states, it was revealing its fundamental nature. Each line, each subtle annotation was a window into a deeper understanding of complexity. Professor Zrintok's forearms moved in a gesture of profound realization. This was more than a scientific solution. This was a fundamental shift in understanding how complex systems could be analyzed. As the final moments of the challenge approached, the quantum network's projection began to crystallize around Kai's intuitive mapping. What had seemed impossible was becoming reality. The galaxy was about to learn that human intuition was far more powerful than any computational system. The news traveled faster than quantum entanglement across the galactic research networks. A human, a species long considered technologically nascent, had solved the computational challenge that had stumped the most advanced civilizations for generations. Kai Rodriguez found himself at the center of a scientific storm that transcended traditional academic boundaries. The Intergalactic Research Council convened an emergency session, summoning representatives from hundreds of advanced civilizations to understand the implications of his breakthrough. The council chamber was a marvel of architectural engineering, suspended in the gravitational nexus of a neutron star. Holographic representations of delegates filled the spherical space, some physical, some pure energy signatures, others existing as complex computational matrices. Chancellor Zulera, a being composed of interconnected energy fields, spoke first. Her voice resonated through universal translation matrices, carrying the weight of millennia of scientific tradition. Dr. Rodriguez, she began, your method challenges everything we understand about computational analysis. Explain. Kai stood calm, wearing the simple research attire of Earth, a stark contrast to the elaborate ceremonial garments of the other delegates. Behind him, a dynamic representation of his quantum network solution continued to dance, a living testament to his approach. It's not about technology, Kai explained. It's about perception. Most computational systems try to control and predict. But some systems, especially complex ones, can't be controlled. They must be understood. Dr. Lena Vorak, who had been skeptical during the initial challenge, now stood as his unexpected advocate. Her computational interfaces had been the first to validate his approach, and she understood the profound implications. Traditional computational methods, she interjected, fragment complex systems. Dr. Rodriguez's approach treats them as living, adaptive networks. It's less about calculation and more about comprehension. The implications were staggering. Every advanced civilization present realized that Kai's methodology could revolutionize everything from ecological modeling to predictive systems, from economic forecasting to understanding neural networks. Professor Zrintok, now wearing formal diplomatic attire, presented a comprehensive analysis of Kai's breakthrough. His neural implants projected holographic data streams that demonstrated how Kai's intuitive approach had succeeded where billions of computational hours had failed. Humans, Zrintok noted, have evolved in environments of constant unpredictability. Their cognitive systems are naturally designed to perceive patterns in chaos. What we saw as a computational problem, they see as a natural system to be understood. The political ramifications were immediate. Species that had long viewed humans as a primitive civilization now saw them in a different light. This was more than a scientific breakthrough, it was a fundamental reassessment of human potential. Kai understood the broader context. This wasn't about individual achievement, but about demonstrating a different way of perceiving complex systems. His background in ecological studies had taught him that the most resilient systems were those that could adapt, not those that tried to maintain rigid control. Chancellor Zulera's energy field pulsed with a complex mixture of emotions, respect, curiosity, and a hint of concern. Your method suggests that computational understanding is not about processing power, but about perspective. Delegates from various civilizations began requesting detailed studies of Kai's approach. Research institutions across the galaxy started reassessing their computational methodologies. The quantum network solution was just the beginning, a proof of concept that suggested humans possessed a unique cognitive approach to understanding complexity. "This changes everything," muttered a delegate from the Crystalline Collective, its latticed form vibrating with realization. Kai remained humble. To him, this was not about proving human superiority, but about demonstrating a different way of perceiving the universe. His solution was an invitation to explore, to understand, to see beyond traditional computational boundaries. As the council session concluded, one thing became clear: humanity had just announced its arrival on the galactic scientific stage. Not through military might or technological superiority, but through a profound ability to understand complexity in ways no one had previously imagined. The universe was about to learn that true intelligence was not about processing power, but about perspective. 5 years had passed since Kai Rodriguez's groundbreaking discovery at the Nexus Intergalactic Research Academy. The ripples of his approach had transformed scientific methodology across the known universe, creating a new field of study that bridged intuitive understanding with computational analysis. The Adaptive Systems Research Center stood as a testament to this new paradigm, a collaborative institution where researchers from hundreds of different species work together, challenging traditional approaches to complex problem-solving. Located on a specially constructed orbital platform that existed between multiple gravitational zones, the center embodied the spirit of interdisciplinary and interspecies collaboration. Kai stood at the center of the main research hall, surrounded by holographic displays that showed ongoing research projects. His team was a diverse collection of minds, each bringing unique perspectives from their home worlds, united by a common approach to understanding complexity. Dr. Lena Vorak approached, her computational interfaces now integrated with more intuitive sensing mechanisms. The computational collective had completely restructured its research methodologies following Kai's breakthrough. "The latest planetary ecosystem model is complete," she announced. Her voice carried a nuanced emotional undertone that would have been impossible in her previous computational form. "We've successfully predicted climate shift patterns for the Kepler 452b colony with 97.3% accuracy." Kai smiled. This was more than just a scientific achievement. It was a fundamental shift in how intelligent species approached problem-solving. Professor Zrintok, now the lead administrator of the research center, addressed a gathering of junior researchers. His lecture halls were always packed, not just with students from advanced civilizations, but with emerging species eager to learn this new approach. "Complexity is not a problem to be solved," he would say, echoing Kai's original insights, but a system to be understood. The implications of Kai's breakthrough extended far beyond scientific research. Diplomatic negotiations became more nuanced, economic systems more adaptive. Species that had been locked in centuries-long conflicts began to find common ground by understanding the interconnected nature of their societies. Earth, once considered a backwater planet, was now a center of scientific and philosophical innovation. Human researchers were sought after not for their technological prowess, but for their unique ability to perceive systems holistically. During a rare moment of reflection, Kai thought about the journey that had brought him here. The nights spent studying ecological systems in the Amazon, the months tracking migration patterns, the years of understanding that true intelligence was about perception, not computation. A young researcher from a gaseous planet approached him. "Dar. Rodriguez," she asked, her energy form shimmering with curiosity, "how did you first understand that complex systems could be viewed this way?" Kai's response was simple yet profound. "By watching. By understanding that the universe is not a machine to be controlled, but a living network to be understood." The Adaptive Systems Research Center was more than an institution. It was a living example of what could be achieved when different species approached complexity with curiosity, humility, and a willingness to see beyond their own limitations. As the artificial sunlight of the orbital platform shifted, casting complex shadows across the research hall, Kai understood that this was just the beginning. Humanity had not conquered the universe through force or technology, but through a fundamental ability to perceive and understand. The greatest discoveries, he realized, come not from having the most advanced tools, but from the ability to see the world in ways others cannot imagine. Outside the research center, the universe continued its complex dance, a living, breathing network of possibilities, waiting to be understood.